I showed my son what it's like to be the weaker person and disowned him. My son's kind girlfriend came to our house with a busted lip and a black eye, so I showed my son what it's like to be the weaker person and disowned him. My dad would physically abuse my mom and also beat my siblings and me. I have 4 younger siblings, 3 of them being girls. I was the oldest and would try to take the beatings for them. So when I was old enough and strong enough, I squared up against my father. I did so as many times as I needed to, and I never let him put his hands on them. Going back, my daughters still live with me since they are going to college, but my son has moved out and made his life. My son has gotten a girlfriend and I have met her. She is a sweet, loving, and soft-natured girl, and I genuinely like her. I love her as family and have told her so. She reminds me of my wife when she was younger. I invite my son and his girlfriend over for lunch and dinners quite often. They have now been dating for 3 years, and she would sometimes come over and help my daughters out with college stuff or just come over to hang out with them. 4 weeks ago she came over, and when I opened the door, the first thing I saw was that she had a busted lip and a black eye. I immediately took her in and helped her. My daughters were also alarmed when they saw her, and when we asked her what happened, she told us that my son was the one who did it to her. This wasn't the first time he had hit her. I cried at hearing that, and I hugged her and begged her for my forgiveness. She told us all about it and apologized for not telling us sooner. I've asked her if she has told her parents or the cops, and she said that we were the first person she felt like going to. I reassured her that she was safe there and not to worry. I asked my daughters to clean up a spare bedroom for her as she would be staying. I spent hours just staring at the black TV screen looking at my reflection. I cannot describe how I was feeling, but you guys can imagine it. A few days after she came to us, I invited my son over for dinner. I had her consent and knowledge to do so first. My son came over, and I've instructed my daughters to keep her in their rooms and to pretend they weren't there. When my son knocked on my door and I saw him again, I felt sick and my blood boiled, but I kept my composure and we sat down to eat. I asked my son basic questions, trying to seem normal and nice. But the whole time I didn't see him as my son anymore. I saw him as my father, and I didn't like that feeling. I kept looking at his hands and knuckles, and there were faint scraps and marks. He acted normal until I asked him how everything was with his girlfriend, and he choked on his food for a moment and told me, "Everything is fine. She's just busy with work and I haven't seen her in a while." I just nodded and say, "Oh, that's nice. Glad she's doing okay." I stood right next to him and asked why he was beating his girlfriend and told him, "I think it's about time you stop bullshitting me about your girlfriend." He asked me what I was talking about, and I told him to stand up and put his hands up. That I knew everything and I was going to show him what it's like to be the weaker person. Told him that this was the real deal. I did not hold back. Before he could say another word, I swung at him. I was going to teach my son what it feels like to get beat, since he thought it was okay. I told him to keep his hands up and to defend himself. We fought, but I of course was going to be the last one standing. I asked him how it felt to be weak. He told me to stop, but I asked him if he stopped when she begged him to. I didn't stop beating him until his girlfriend came downstairs and screamed at me to stop. He looked horrified at seeing her. I told him that he was lucky she didn't tell her dad, because her dad would have made him bury his own grave. That he was lucky no one told the cops, because people in jail or prison aren't fond of men who beat women. That he was lucky I am not putting him down like the animal he is. I told him how disgusting I felt being the father of a man who beats his girlfriend. That he was a disappointment to everyone in this house. That at this point on he was no longer part of this family, and to get the F out of my house. Seeing how I left him reminded me of how she came to me. I tossed him some napkins and told him to clean himself up on the way to whatever poop hole he came from. I cried once he limped out of the front door. I told his girlfriend that moving forward was her choice and I would support her. If she chose to continue her relationship with him, then I would be doing random welfare checks. If she chose to stay here, she was more than welcome to. I told her how sorry I was that something so horrible happened to her and that it was my fault. It has been a few weeks and I didn't realize that I had a broken nose, but that is okay. She chose to end the relationship with him and she has been staying with us. I feel like poop. I keep seeing the red stains on the couch and carpet, and I keep asking myself if I did the right thing. I no longer had a son and that hurt me. I do not know if I did the right thing.